Hello, my name's Andy, I'm the Ginger Gamer, welcome to episode 17. Right, I'm taking a very brief break from Prehistoric Kingdom videos, not the game itself, just from putting out videos, and I'm going to share something a little bit different. So, way back in 1996, a game was released for PC that has become fairly legendary, not just because of its core gameplay, but due to the number of features that, while maybe not seen for the first time, were made popular, successful and much easier to implement, and that will go on to be integral to PC gaming for future decades. That game was Quake by id Software, and of the many innovations included in it, there were three features, in my opinion, that were particularly impactful. They were full, real-time 3D rendering, online multiplayer, principally death matches, being made much more simple and robust, and most relevantly for this series of videos, modding. Modding, as you probably know, is when anyone who plays the game can potentially change various aspects of it, levels, code, models, graphics, etc., to change just a little, or sometimes quite a lot, and to make a whole new experience for players. As an example, someone, me, turned Quake, a fairly traditional first-person shooter, into a 16-level fantasy third-person adventure game. Quake, in the way it was designed and in the way information and tools were shared by id Software, made modding not only possible, but also much simpler than it had been before. Well, simple is perhaps not the right word. It definitely was not always simple, but it was comparatively easier than previous games allowed, especially as time went by, as more and more tools were released by the community to make things even better. To make mods, there are a number of things you needed, or might need depending on what type of mod you wanted to make. Firstly, a level editor. For a long time this was a program called Worldcraft. Secondly, a way to edit and compile code. Quake used an in-game scripting language as well as the main game engine code. Modders could change, remove and create code to alter many aspects of how the game functioned, including creature AI, health, weapons, etc. Thirdly, a way to create graphics, e.g. a Photoshop type program and/or a proprietary one to convert them into a form the game could use. Fourthly, a model editor to edit, create or reskin the various character or landscaping models in the game. Not everyone used all of those. Many mods have just been made with code or just with new levels, but some have used them all. The final thing you needed though, and the most important, was knowledge. And to that end, Quake modding had a vibrant and exciting community, which was always there to not only share knowledge, but also collaborate to develop new ideas, techniques and solutions. Anyway, I didn't start modding until late 1999, and it wasn't until 2001 that I released my first mod. However, at that time something else was happening in the Quake community. The source code to the actual game engine itself had been released, and many, much smarter people than me, were developing modified engines to improve many aspects, including the rendering, lighting, capacity and other features. Additionally, some programs also made Quake compatible with other platforms. What interested me back then was a version that ran on the Sega Dreamcast, which had a flourishing homebrew scene and lots of tools to help get non-proprietary software running on standard hardware. Therefore, as 2001 came around, I not only made mods for PC, but also worked on making them compatible with Dreamcast Quake, which did have limitations that meant I often had to release two versions, or at least an additional patch for Dreamcast users. Right, so onto my mods. I completed 5 mods and worked on and off on another large project that changed and evolved over a number of years, but ultimately I never got any version of it into a finished form. The first was with absolutely no coincidence considering the game I've played most on this channel, called Raptors, and was a first-person shooter where the enemies were velociraptors, and the scenario was that a military laboratory where they had been created had lost control, the base was in the process of being evacuated, and you're, in an utterly cliched narrative, were a lone soldier who failed to escape and has to therefore work their way through the base over 6 levels to find another way to safety. The second mod was, ridiculously for reasons I'll come to, called Raptor's Return, and this time you played in third person as a raptor itself. Anyway, over 4 levels, 3 reworked from the original mod and 1 new one, you use all your raptor cunning, teeth and claws to chomp your way through an army of soldiers and escape captivity. The next mod was something completely different, and the start of a pattern of me being unable to stick to a game's original purpose that somewhat ended up with me making a city and a bedroom in a park building game. Anyway, there's a playground game in the UK called British Bulldog. In its simplest form, it involves children running from one end of the playground to the other, from one safe area to another, while other children in the middle attempt to catch them. For some reason this shouted Quake mod to me, and I made a game where players had to do the same, run from one end of an area to another, while various monsters attempted to stop you. For fun, I placed it in a stadium with a crowd and gave it a rudimentary scoring system and called it Bulldog Stadium. The next mod was by far the biggest and my most ambitious. The previously mentioned 16-level third-person fantasy adventure game, with the central character being a goblin, of course, and called Lunkin's Journey. Again, I employed some fine tropes and cliches. The goblin was an estranged son who was unaware fully of his heritage and mistreated by his fellow goblins. With some mysterious magic, an adventure started and the truth is revealed. It's a little buggy, well, quite a lot buggy. My ideas couldn't be realised mostly by my skills but also by the game, but I must admit I'm pretty proud of it. The final mod I completed was a small Christmas spin-off from Lunkin's Journey called Lunkin's Christmas Carol. In it you race around the village level trying to collect all the presents before the time runs out, while goblins and dogs attempt to stop you. It's actually quite challenging but lots of fun, in my opinion anyway. The last, unfinished mod was originally called Earthquake, and the premise was you played in a city where there had been some kind of apocalyptic event and a strange structure had appeared within the city itself, demolishing some buildings in the process. It was basically going to be a kind of horde mode game where various creatures were teleported via this strange structure into your city, and you had to, using no guns at all but various other elements like Molotov cocktails and exploding barrels, kill the monsters and avoid being killed yourself, which, once you'd killed a certain amount, would trigger more monsters being teleported and so on. The beauty in terms of the game would be is that I just have to make the one level and then I could almost make it an infinite game really, and that I could just call more and more monsters into the level. But I kind of lost interest in it. The challenge was finishing even a relatively small city in the Quake engine, and with the Quake level editing tools often found some problems. Now there were some similarities in the level to my Prehistoric City mod, especially one pub, but I never really got to a point I was happy with, and I never really felt I could make it work. And over time I kind of lost interest, and it morphed into a second mod, still using the same city level, which was called Dusk. And I never even really set upon a theme for that, which was going to be kind of a zombie mod really. But again, I kind of drifted away from Quake modding, and that mod in particular, and never finished it. Right, that's some background into my brief time modding Quake. In the following videos in this series, I'll play through each of the mods, hopefully entertaining you with both the intentional and unintentional features within each. And I'll start in the next video with raptors. Right, so if you're interested in seeing them, please think about liking and subscribing. I am continuing with Prehistoric Kingdom. I'm working on a Prehistoric Zoo Park, but I'm still in the early stages, so I'm not sure when I'll release a video on that. But I will be. If you're part of the Prehistoric Kingdom Discord, I will be releasing some screenshots to there. So you'll see some of the early progress, which I'm really at the kind of trial and error testing out phase at the moment. But I will be putting some videos out as things progress. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. As I say, please think about liking and subscribing and sharing. And I will see you next time.